Magnus Carlsen, the former 5-time chess world champ, has maintained his reign as the world's top-rated player in FIDE since July 1st, 2011, creating a chess dynasty like no other. Seriously, if chess had a trophy for most wins, Magnus would need a whole new trophy room just to fit them all in. But what happens when a new contender steps into the arena, ready to challenge Carlsen's supremacy? Introducing Anna Cramling, a 19-year-old chess prodigy, daughter of chess grandmaster Pia Cramling and Juan Manuel Bellón Lopez. She's not only a woman FIDE master, but also a notable Swedish content creator, contributing to the resurgence of chess's popularity. The game kicks off briskly with Magnus making his move, deploying his pawn to d4, a familiar opening in his repertoire. Anna quickly responds by advancing her knight to f6, and Magnus advances his second pawn to c4. As the game unfolds, more pieces come into play, signaling a transition to the Catalan opening. Anna makes a strategic move by advancing her dark-squared bishop to b4, creating a check against Magnus. In response, the reigning world champion cleverly maneuvers his knight to c3, simultaneously obstructing the check and developing his piece. However, this action results in Magnus's knight becoming pinned, making any attempt to move it a threat to his king's safety against Anna's strategically placed bishop. After some thought, Anna decides to capture the pawn on c4 with her pawn, and Magnus develops his bishop to g2. Anna pauses briefly to contemplate her next move, and Magnus seizes the opportunity to engage in friendly banter with her.
No, why am I playing a super theoretical line?
This is not super theoretical.
It is not.
Anna chooses to move her knight to d5, a strong play since it puts pressure on the pinned knight at c3. Once all the exchanges are finished, Anna will have the chance to capture a rook because Magnus's king is in check. Yet, when you're facing the world champion, things aren't going to be that easy. Magnus takes action by moving his dark-squared bishop to counter the attack and protect his position. Both players secure their kings by castling. Anna's next move is pawn to c6, creating room for her queen to have greater mobility. In response, Magnus plays pawn to e4, putting Anna's knight under threat. She decides to exchange knights on c3, although this move isn't ideal, as it typically isn't advisable to trade a well-placed piece for one in a less important position. Magnus recaptures with his pawn, simultaneously displacing Anna's dark-squared bishop and forcing it to retreat. Following this, Magnus advances his pawn to a4. It's at this point that Magnus interjects with the comment,
"A little bit too well for my liking."
However, receiving a compliment like this from the world champion is a victory on its own. But Carlsen is on the brink of elevating the game to a higher level. After a couple of moves, Magnus decides to take the pawn on c4 with his knight. Anna moves her pawn to e5. In response, Magnus shifts his dark-squared bishop to e3. Anna puts her light-squared bishop into action, aiming to capture Magnus's knight and also posing a threat to his rook in the upcoming move. Yet, this is where the world champion makes a brilliant move, knight to b7, eluding Anna's attack and, at the same time, creating a threat to capture her rook. Anna moves her rook to a safer spot, which grants Magnus an opportunity to advance a pawn and menace Anna's light-squared bishop. They exchange pawns, yet due to e5 being shielded by several of Magnus's other pieces, Anna has no choice but to retreat her bishop. In chess terms, this is often called losing a tempo, something players usually try to avoid as it provides their opponent with chances to advance or develop their pieces without any cost. After a couple of moves, Magnus decides to capture the bishop on d6 with his knight. Anna captures back with her queen. Magnus brings his queen into the game, and later, after getting attacked by Anna's pieces, Magnus slides his queen to b4, offering a queen trade. After thinking for a while, Anna decides to accept this trade. Both players make a few more moves before the world champion surprises everyone by taking an unforeseen step. He begins guiding Anna while their game is ongoing.
Tactics. Look for tactics.
Anna takes her time considering her move and ultimately plays rook to a8. Unbeknownst to her, Magnus was actually planning to move the knight to d5, a move that not only secures an advantage, but also sets up a tactical maneuver called a fork. Nevertheless, Anna responds strategically by moving her knight behind Magnus's pieces, putting his rook in danger. Carlsen decides to go for the exchange and quickly shifts his rook to pose a threat to Anna's knight. Anna slides her rook to c1, defending the knight and also threatening a discovered attack on the white's king. Magnus simply slides his king to safety. Following a few moves, Magnus initiates a checkmate combination employing his 2 bishops. Anna remained oblivious to this ingenious tactic. Anna attacks the white's bishop with her pawn. Magnus slides his bishop to e7, giving a check to Anna's king, forcing her to move the king to e8. Magnus moves his rook to a2, threatening to give a check on the next move. Knowing that, Anna slides her rook to c8, blocking the 8th rank. Magnus casually shifts his bishop to f3. The best move for Anna is to play her pawn to g6, so that she can avoid bishop h5 check, but instead, she moves her knight to c3. Magnus advances his light-squared bishop to h5, creating a barrier that leaves no route of escape for Anna's king. Despite her efforts to block the path with the pawn, her king has no exit, sealing her fate. Magnus executed the checkmate with such finesse that even the chessboard blushed, realizing it was just a square in a world-class magic show.